Well, it's nice to be back together. This is a gathering of the heart, and that's not just can be, if you want to keep it there, as some cliche. It's a gathering to kind of drop the logical mind and to just relax into this prayer that we all have, which is for a deeper connection with something that's real, something that's true, something that helps us feel that we're not alone and that we are connected not only to each other but to this divinity, this power, this unseen power that I've spoken about many, many times. So this song is like it's like a supplication, right? We always start in prayer, but what is the prayer? The prayer is not, asking for something from God or something outside of ourselves. The supplication is to bring forth in our own mind our own presence and to be able to sit here and open. The prayer is just an opening. So to me, the prayer is, help me to receive what brought me here. Help me to receive what will most support this connection. So really, it's always just about an opening in our own mind. It's not really about praying to some God that is outside of us. Because the kingdom of heaven is truly within. And of course, that sounds nice, right? That sounds very nice. And that's why if the Course in Miracles is your path, then we have a handbook on how to actually access that connection. And how blessed we are to be able to have that kind of clarity, come through, because there's something within us that's ready to hear that clarity. There's something within us that's ready to follow that resonance that we feel with those words on those pages. And of course, even that is not outside of us. That is something that is part of our script, that is part of our dream in this world, is to wake up to the truth of who we are, which just means to be happy. I used to chase, as many of you know, because you've heard me speak before, I used to chase this thing called enlightenment. And I suppose that was a good motivation, but at a certain point, because it took me towards truth on a deeper level. But at some point I had to even drop that and accept the steps that Jesus gives us in the Course in Miracles, which is to accept the happy dream. And then things got very simple for me. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, because I was always looking for some altered state of consciousness that proved to me that I was not this little person running around trying to figure it out. So blessed we are to have this beautiful light in our own minds to help us to uncover this blessed state of what we truly are, which is true happiness and love, simplicity. Really, simplicity. And yet we have to do the work of the uncovering, right? But it is a phase. It doesn't last forever. It gets lighter and lighter and lighter as you truly practice what Jesus is pointing us to in the Course in Miracles. But if that application is not there, then you will just read words and you will feel uplifted for a moment. And then you'll go back to judging your neighbor and having all kinds of opinions about everything. So there's a consistency that's available as we go deeper and deeper into this thing that Jesus calls forgiveness, which is recognizing that what we think has happened has not occurred. What we think our brother has done to us has not occurred. That's very deep metaphysics. And the only way to ever understand that is to practice it. The only way to ever experience it is to practice it. And I've had several conversations this week, and it always kinds of points to what perhaps will be talked about today. At the core of everything is desire, and if we don't have that deep desire for this experience, then we will always have a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I think that most people in this room have looped around in this world enough that perhaps you have hit that expiration date with all the nonsense. You know, the world is here to distract us away from this truth of what we are. So if it is actually a distraction in all its forms, because as Jesus says in the Course in Miracles, all roadways of this world will lead to death. It's a dream. Okay, that's fine. That's a very lofty idea, but how do we get to the experience of this peace that Jesus talks about, this, you know, God's will for me is perfect happiness? Well, I'm not perfectly happy, so why is that? Because I don't have a perfect consistency in my mind. I don't feel like I'm worthy enough for that kind of attention. And so it's really nobody's fault or nobody's to blame for your unhappiness. Now that's not what the world teaches us. But it's the absolute truth. If there's an upset in the mind, it is something that you are doing to yourself from that belief that we have separated from our source, from that belief in the tiny mad idea that projected this whole universe. And it all seems so convincing. And so as we come together, the prayer is to allow myself to step back enough to hear the true message under these words. And the true message is pointing to that true happiness. And it is an experience. It is not a concept in the mind. I was speaking with somebody this week about trust. What is trust? Well, trust is a concept until it's a reality. And trust is actually a state of mind where there truly is no more effort. But you know, there's levels of trust, and it's talked about. It's like we have to start trusting this invisible power more than we're trusting what's going on in our head, because what's going on in our head and bombarding us with thoughts of how to fix things on the screen is the very thing we need to step away from. Which, if you can hear that, it's a great relief in that. Like, okay, I just need to step away from all of this nonsense that my life keeps looping around telling me that if I just fix this situation or that situation, then I'll be happy. And it never happens, does it? It happens for a minute. It happens for a minute. It's like a new car smell. It goes away. It just doesn't last. And so we're talking about lasting love and peace. And it's so exciting. And the only way to get to that in truth and in experience is you have to do the work. You have to do the forgiveness work. And there has to be a devotion, a true devotion of the heart, that is your desire, is to be happy. And of course, everything that we do in life, we think it's to help us to be happy. If I just do this, then I'll be happy. If I just do that, I'll be happy. And so there's this beautiful thing that the Course offers that most spiritual traditions do not, and that is guidance. And what is guidance? And I had a lovely conversation this week about that. You know, most people think, and just check in with yourself as I share this, most people feel like, okay, I will trust that this will all work out. That's a common one. I will trust that this will all work out. Well, that is very form-based, okay? If you're trusting, like you have some situation in your life, and if you're trusting and saying, I trust that this will all work out, then it's the motivation is that something in form is going to prove to you that you are loved and something is there to help you, right? And I think in the stages of trust, that when you first start opening up to this invisible power and that which loves you and knows what is the very best for you in all situations in form, then that's very helpful to start to open up to that and say, okay, I'm going to trust that I don't know what is to become of this situation, but that allowance for something else to come in is very important. And then you do start to get convinced. But what it's eventually leading to is this beautiful state of mind of trust, that it doesn't matter anymore what happens in form. It truly doesn't matter. And then that's a great relief. Like, oh wow, I really am happy at all times as long as I'm trusting that this state of mind is all that matters. But while I'm running around trying to intensely figure out situations and make things okay, then you're chasing your own tail, and that will loop over and over, and we've all lived long enough to know that loop. And it's funny because the loop keeps showing up. It just keeps showing up. It might be a little different people, but the loop keeps coming. So our undefined community, the prayer, I think, underneath all of it is for this true happiness. And I think the last few months while we've been gathering here, the theme has been to use these relationships and to use our lives in a way that we're here to forgive this world. If this world is a distraction, if this world is truly a distraction that lays on top of this glorious experience of peace and joy and happiness, or what Jesus calls the happy dream, then our only desire, our pure desire, should be to forgive it in all its forms. And so that's why there's these beautiful one-liners, these zingers in the Course. Would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? You know, that's deep. Even if you're wrong, even if you're right, you're wrong. Oh my God. Who says that? Well, who says that is one that knows that none of it is true. So if none of it is true, then why are we putting most of our energy into that which is not true? Now we have to be convinced of this because we've been so heavily programmed through our patterning of childhood or whatever, that we have to be convinced, but we have to take the steps to be convinced. We have to be open to being convinced. We have to see what it feels like to be in the middle of some type of conflict and truly have the prayer of, help me see this through your eyes. I will step back and let you lead the way. And as you do that, then there's an opportunity, because your mind is open, for a new experience to come in. But without that stepping back, then you're still going to be stuck, focused on that which is not real. But it's so mesmerizing. That's the thing, you guys. The scene is so mesmerizing, and it feels like you're just this little fragment at effect of whatever is going on. I mean, subtle things like wanting to be acknowledged. I had a conversation with a friend of mine in San Francisco, and she built this multi-million-dollar nonprofit foundation, a very altruistic mission that she had for 25 years. It was a healthcare project in Tibet, sanctioned by the Dalai Lama. It was a big deal, and she did fabulous. Well, she just turned over being CEO, or whatever they call it, of this nonprofit foundation, and nobody acknowledged her. Okay? And she was spinning. And she wanted, like, her staff, nobody made a deal out of it. And she was crushed by that. Here she had served, and I've known her since we were in our 20s. I've known her since she began this, and I know her heart, and I know that she did an amazing job of serving. She's thinking of coming down here now, and I feel like it's like, okay, you've had this service, very beautiful project. Now go into your room, light a candle, thank yourself for the job that you've done. Thank yourself for all that has happened and all the growth and let it go. It's over. And it's so obvious that it's over that she's not even getting acknowledged. She called her mom to bitch about it, and her mom wouldn't talk to her about it. She wanted to talk about her sister. I said, oh my God, I love it when it's that clear. When it's that clear that you are being shown in that moment. Even with the call to the mother, who she wanted somebody to join her in her upset. That's false empathy. And the mother wouldn't do it. So this was a beautiful thing, you know. But through our patterning, we think that at the end of a 25-year service project, there should be some acknowledgement. This is painful. This is painful. I asked her, can you acknowledge yourself? Can you acknowledge yourself? This is a love affair with the self, capital S, but we have to be kind to the little self while we're letting go of it and allow it to disappear. So this consistency of peace does come. But it comes through doing what Jesus says in the Course in Miracles: an untrained mind can accomplish nothing. Well, that's pretty simple. We're all like wild horses. Our minds are like monkeys, and we're jumping around, and we're just trying to feel comfortable all the time. The ego just wants to feel comfortable. We know this. But if we're so identified with that thought of all I need to do is feel comfortable, because then that means that I'm connected to Source, but that's really what only takes you into further discomfort, is to think that something in this world is going to bring you comfort. It will not. It never has. Everybody's up in arms about the world right now. Well, it's always been the same way. It's just more obvious now. It's always been the same. It's just been hidden. Has the world ever been peaceful? No. So we have to stop looking to this world, which was projected from our belief that we're separating from our Source. And so everything in it is there to distract the mind from this true love that we are. And we are that. We are that. And that all sounds really nice, right? But that's why we're together here, you guys. That's why I think everybody's been called together here. And I think that inspiration of the heart to practice more deeply with our relationships, to get more authentic, to watch where we're judging. I mean, you can, if you're feeling like just taking the week to watch your own mind when you're with other people. Mind your own mind. You're only responsible for your own mind. Isn't that good news? You're not responsible for your brother or your sister's mind or what's happening with them. You're responsible for the judgment, which keeps everything in place, for your preferences. Preferences are judgments. I need it to be a certain temperature in this room. I need this. I need that. It's just endless. It's endless distraction, and it's endless creating a lack of peace within your own mind, and you're doing it to yourself. Isn't that the great news? You're doing this unhappiness, whatever it is, you're doing it to yourself. Now, we can do something with that, right? If there were true victims, then we wouldn't be able to do anything with that. And what is the victim? What is the victimizer? It all stems back to one thing. This is why it's so simple. But it's so hard for the monkey mind to grasp this, or to even contemplate it for any length of time, is that it all stems from the belief that we separated from our Source. We are not separate, but it looks like we are. We are not. But where do we join? Don't join in personalities. We will never join in personalities. Can we look beyond the personalities? If you're sitting there right now judging whatever's coming out of my mouth, you're doing yourself a disservice. Kick back, relax, open to the Spirit, and realize what it is. Realize, remember what it is that you came here for. You came here for this deeper sense of connection and truth of who you are. That will be answered. But if you're thinking about the temperature in the room or this or that or whatever, you will not receive what you came here for, like the song, help me remember. Well, there's a part of your mind that is never forgotten. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the wholeness and the holiness within you. But because we give so much time and effort to what is not true, and we wonder why we're not consistently happy. I mean, it's almost laughable. And so the consistency comes from desire. And, a lot of people are very tired. I love the part in the Course where he says the world is weary. It's the world is within my mind. I'm weary of this scene here. It's going nowhere. And you just get to watch where your mind wants to hook into this world. And with COVID, it's very easy to do. With what seems to be happening, it's almost like, well, certainly I need to do something about this, But there's no hierarchy of illusion. These are amazing nuggets of absolute truth that will free us, will free our minds, if we will allow that to sink in. But if we're too busy watching YouTubes or whatever, CNN or Fox, whatever it is, that I went up to America up to the U.S. a couple weeks ago, and man, people are mainlining the media. And it's painful. It's very, very painful. I was with my mother, who I adore, has been my angel and my anchor in this life to just keep me here. And I literally was just, I'm so used to having conversations with minds that are open. And boy, she's not 90 years old. She was on about Trump, right? And I was just like, oh, wow. And everything she said, if you turned on the news, it was almost like she was just saying exactly what they were saying, So that's fine, But we don't want to do that, especially if we're on an authentic journey of awakening. And I really want to clarify that word awakening. Awakening to the truth is simply awakening to the fact that you're dreaming a dream. And then it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. But there's nothing serious in this world. There's nothing serious, which goes against everything we've ever been taught. So this is a radical journey away from a thought system that keeps us in hell. And this is what's so inspiring. I'm so inspired about forgiveness, because forgiveness works. Not forgiveness of I'll rise above in my self-righteousness and forgive you because you're lowly and you don't know what you're doing. No, to open up to this divine clarity, to open up to this way of living that is not of this world. And then guess what happens? Then you become a blessing, right? You become an extension of that truth. And that's what we all want. And I know I've talked to many of you on a one-on-one basis, and I know that this prayer is here. And there is an attraction to this area, because I feel like because of that, it's almost like, yeah, there's got to be a better way. And there are more people coming, and the center's opening, and it's and we get to gather together. And I feel like this consistency of gathering is very, very helpful for the mind, because otherwise you just go back into some kind of sleep, right? You just kind of, okay, well, that was sure inspiring. And then you're inspired for a minute or two, and then you go back into this kind of whatever state of mind that you're attracted to. So it does take discipline. Actually it takes the most discipline that you could ever have in this reality. Training for the Olympics is really nothing compared to the training of the mind. And I remember feeling that when I joined David in community, was this 24/7 concentrated effort. And if it wasn't, then the mind would get into big problems. And so being able to have some sort of consistency with your pathway, which is what the Course also lays out with the lessons, and with just the availability of the truth as you open that book. And of course, the Course in Miracles is not the only way, but if it is your way, then accept it, you know. And the other thing about the Course is it can become a trap as well. You can get caught up in these little things and make them cliches, and they're the deepest truths on the planet. And you can start to swirl around those and think that you've arrived somewhere, and you've arrived nowhere. You're just kind of gaslighting things, and you're not really dealing with what is brewing underneath, which the Course talks very specifically about, that we have to allow this, what he calls darkness, to see that it's not really true. So if darkness isn't really true, then darkness isn't really there. You know, that's the beautiful part about it. And when we work in deep, deep retreats, and we work with the metaphysics of the Course, and we work with plant medicine, then you're able to see that very, very clearly, very, very quickly. And so it's a helpful tool, you know, to dislodge that fear. But boy, oh boy, wouldn't you love to know from your heart that fear wasn't real? Like, really. You know, we have to allow that, whatever it is. It's not a push away of what wants to come through, but you guys can tell the difference, I think, when you're with somebody or with yourself, when there's just some pattern, some deep subconscious, pushed out of awareness thing that's passing through. You can feel it. It's deep. It's heavy. And you can tell the difference between that and just, you know, rolling around in your own sense of futility. So there are two different ways, you know, to there's one part of the mind training where you can say no, not that, and it's true. I've already seen you. I've already dealt with you. No, I'm not doing that anymore, because there's no juice. There's no real deep feeling to it. But when something wants to come through and you want to push it away because it's so uncomfortable, that's when you want to allow that to come through. And that's part of the mindfulness of seeing the difference. Because you can spin around on a topic for lifetimes. But that's not why we're here. We're here to remember our song, like that song said. Now, was that song metaphysically correct? No. But can you hear underneath what the message of that song is? I know that in community we used to have this phrase, we used to say metaphysical Nazis. Right? Like, you couldn't even talk to somebody because if you couldn't speak freely because you felt like you were going to be judged by this, you know, metaphysical Nazi. That's not metaphysically correct, and blah blah blah. It's like, so you do that with yourself as well. We want to get down to the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law, and that's why I'm saying the Course in Miracles can become a trap as well, as you compartmentalize it into what, you know, some kind of way that you can rise up and spout these words and think that you're better than everybody else, right? We want the experience. We want the experience of this truth that radiates in our heart, that we wake up and we feel it. And it's not like, you know, you're like a bliss ninny running around, but there's this rest in your heart, right? Where you know that no matter what is coming, that you're going to use it for healing. And as you use it for healing, then it's all worth it. But if you're just recycling the same loop and you're trying to fix it with another person or fix the situation, then you'll have the opportunity again. But we want to go for the heart of the healing. We want to go for that, like, I will step back authentically in this moment. You are, say you're with somebody and you're being triggered. Why is that happening? Why is that happening to you? Well, if you're looking at it through the eyes of the pathway of A Course in Miracles, it's happening so you can be released. It's actually happening so you can be released. It's not happening to victimize you. It's happening to show you that you could never be a victim. So that's why the only appropriate response to a brother is gratitude. I used to read that and think, what? No way. And this is the part where most Course in Miracles students will start to, make excuses and fall off. because they don't really want to see that it's a reflection or a belief in their own mind. They don't want to see that. And so they do, well, we do whatever we do to come away from the discomfort of that situation, where it's ripe with opportunity. It is the given way that the Course in Miracles says that this is awakening through the power and the reflections of these relationships. Why? Because it's quick. It's very, very quick. We can see really, really clearly in any given moment what I'm thinking about my brother. And that is what we're holding at the knife at our own throat. So how do we release this? Well, we forgive it. How do we do that? Well, we don't. We literally allow that power. But ours is just this offering. I give this to you. Now, this all can sound just so basic, but it's the power of the. It's really true. The true power. The only true power that we have. The only true power that we have is this acceptance of the correction. You know, it's not even finding the correction. It's accept the correction that's already happened. Now, of course, this goes way abstract in the mind, and we don't understand it. But as you practice it, you start to see it, and then you get excited. You get excited about this practice because it works. And without that happening, then why would you be on this? Why would you even consider it? We're going for an experience, but a real experience, not an entertainment, not some spiritual covering, not some spiritual mask. That's what has to go, that spiritual mask. So it's so beautiful, and I know I say the same thing over and over again. I feel like that's all I ever say. But you know what? We need it. We need that reminder. You know, I was thinking about it this morning. When I was in community for 10 years, if I could have just accepted on a deeper level, I would have been done in a week. But because the patterning is so strong, I had to be reminded. I had to have strong mirrors in front of me that would remind me not only of my bullshit, but of my divinity. It's like, no, you know. And so it was this beautiful experience of complete devotion to, I want out of this loop. First and foremost, I want out of this loop. And I had a pretty good loop, right? I mean, as far as worldly loops go. And some of you may have that too. But it was always constantly hollow, you know, in the end. It could be entertained for a minute, but, you know, then you reach that point where you just go, okay, yeah. So this consistency of devotion is very, very important. And if you wonder, why is it that I don't feel uplifted? I love the Course in Miracles, but something is just, you know, it's because you're not giving yourself the attention that you need. You're flipping on the YouTubes instead of asking, what should I be doing in this moment? Oh, maybe you should call Becca. Okay, I'll do that. I don't know why, but I'll do that instead of flipping on a movie or CNN or whatever. So it really gets down also to prayer being the medium of the miracle, which is so amazing, you guys. The prayer is the medium of the miracle. Why don't I go there first instead of trying to, of my own little strength, trying to figure something out? Why don't I just say, you show me? Because I'll guarantee you it's going to be different than what you thought you were going to do. Almighty you. We want to let that you go, and we want to step into this connection where, you know, it's not natural to be human. This is not natural. This is an unnatural state of mind, this belief. And it's a painful one. To believe you're a body is painful. To believe that you're alone, separate from each other and trying to figure it out, it's painful. It's stressful. It's fear-based. The body, to believe in the body is fear. It's a fearful thought. And it's not the truth. It's not the truth. I mean, come on, that is so great. It's not the truth. Oh, thank God. It's not the truth. There's a lesson in the Course that says, I am spirit. That's the truth. There's a lesson in the Course that says, there is no fear. That's the truth. There are so many beautiful reassurances from the part of our mind. It's from our mind. The Course in Miracles is from our light in our mind, where we are all joined, and we are joined in that light. We're not joined in opinions and talking about useless things and talking about the state of the world, unless you're using it to start to shed light and truth on it. We can use everything, and we need to use everything in this world for our awakening, for the practice of forgiveness, for the relinquishment of things that are no longer valuable. And as we use everything for that, then what starts to happen is you start to light your heart up, and you don't even. It's like forgiveness. The seeming act of handing over whatever it is to this unseen light and power in your own mind is an act of faith. Okay, I'm gonna practice this. Maybe you just do it for a day and see what the results are. It's boring. It's very, very boring to just live on planet Earth, no matter how many, things are happening that seem really exciting, because they're not in the end. But there is an inner joy. There's an inner effervescence that is it's just clouded. It's just got blankets and blankets of stuff on top of it. And we want to take those blankets off, so that we can dwell in this realization of there is nothing to fear. There's nothing to be at effect of. Can you imagine if we weren't at effect? I've had many discussions with people and with myself, walk through this. So I'm not speaking from some conceptual place to where you feel like you're at effect of everything. And if they would just understand you, or if they would just see you, that was my big one in community. Can't they see me? Can't they see me, how sincere I am? The sincere one had to go. It was good intentions, I had really super good intentions. And they would never be acknowledged. Until I realized, okay, I didn't come here to be acknowledged as a small self. And then, of course, as soon as I let it go, then, all the stuff starts flooding. But then it can't be caught in some egoic patterning or aggrandizement, So it's this beautiful opportunity that we have. And when I came back, I was only gone for a week, but I came back and I felt like, oh, I'm so happy to be here, so happy to be here with you, and I never really was much of a people lover. I always thought they were distractions, and so I just wanted them to be out of my way, right? And then community was the answer for me, which I lived out in the middle of nowhere. I was going to meditate myself to God, meditate my way to God. And so when you pray the prayer of awakening of your heart, then just please accept the means that are given. People say, why did you have to be so radical and leave everything and go with David Hoffman? Well, because that's what came. What am I supposed to do? Do I understand it? No. Do I fully, I wasn't dancing towards him. I was crying. I was in deep grief because I was leaving everything behind that I thought was my safety, my love, all of it went. So, I feel like this is this amazing opportunity that we have here. Really, and it's kind of like, I don't know where it comes from, but it's this I don't know if it's a song or what, but it's like, don't go back to sleep. Don't go back to sleep. You have to bring it. Whatever's lacking in any situation is what you're not bringing. You bring it to this community. You bring your light to and your desire for healing. You bring your desire to have deep relationships. I always say, I don't think that there's one person in this room that if somebody called each other, that it wouldn't be a joy. No matter if the one person is crying out their eyes. It's like, oh, thank you for letting me be with you. But we're afraid, aren't we? And guess what we're afraid of? We're afraid of authentically connecting. We're afraid of authentically joining. That is our biggest fear. Our biggest fear. And we cannot underestimate how big that fear is. Now, maybe it is not consciously in our awareness that fear is really true. Because of course we want to connect with each other. No, we just want to connect personalities so that the ego can stay safe and alive and wandering forever. That's what the ego wants. It wants validation. It wants to know that you love it and that you approve of it so that it can feel okay, which it will never feel okay, because in its very nature is fear. And that fear is what we want to go towards and dissolve, because fear is not real. But it sure seems real when you're in the middle of it, and that's what we cannot spiritually mask over, ever. That wants to be, it's literally, it's the process of forgiveness, is allowing that fear to be brought fully into the light of your mind. You're never looking at it on your own. You're always inviting that presence. Like I said in the beginning, our prayer is to pull forth that strength in our mind. We are strong beyond anything you could ever imagine. And you can see how much your mind wants to go to weakness. And that's what I saw in these conversations this week and with my friend in California. All that came through me was this power to pull her up into her strength. If I would have said, oh, that's just terrible, I can't believe they didn't acknowledge you. I mean, what is that? But instead it's like, oh, that's great. Now, keep moving. Keep moving in your strength. But I spent years wanting somebody to acknowledge that in me. I spent years in pain thinking that I needed somebody else to tell me what I am. And even in a deep spiritual community, 24/7, I never got that acknowledgement. I got the acknowledgement of who I really was, but that little self hated it. Don't you see me? Don't you see me? That was my mantra. And so this is a love affair with your self, capital S, and that self, capital S, needs to be courted. It needs to be dated. It needs to be brought flowers. It needs to be taken out to dinner. It needs all the things that you think you want somebody else to give you. And then as you start to do that and you start to, the miracles, which are shifts of perception from fear to love, that's what a miracle is. It's a shift of perception. Will become natural. Miracles will become natural. You will walk in them. They will cascade down on you. You won't be able to hold all the goodness back. Things will happen that you could never even imagine would happen. Now that's all just a reflection of the mind, right? The mind is either reflecting the fear and the guilt that you carry in your mind, or it's reflecting the beauty and the love that you are. And so we want to bring into our awareness this this truth and beauty that's just lying back there going, oh, please take these heavy covers off from me. I want to love. I want to be love. I want to be with you, So it gets fun, because then you see that it's wholly your way out, right? It's the only thing that you're attracted to anymore. You're no longer attracted to the bullshit. It just disappears. It's like it's not important. It's like, oh, why would I want to sit here and try to prove something to my brother? It's stressful and heavy and boring, you know. So this prayer is very important. Becca and I had a nice conversation about prayer this week, and how this is your PowerPoint, is the prayer, the quiet. You know, we have 3 pillars in alchemy of awakening. One is silence. And one is medicine, the sacred medicine, and one is A Course in Miracles. The silence is as important as anything. It's quieting and being with yourself. Instead of, because the ego is such an uncomfortable identity that we're constantly trying to move away from that silence, because then we're going to feel it. You know. And so to take time to be quiet, to take time just to be with yourself. Like on Fridays, I usually don't do anything. I just stay here, and part of it is in preparation for just being with everybody. But it's my time to just like, okay. And then things can come in, you know. Beautiful things can drop in. And you know, there's a lot of busy doings right now. And that's okay. They're all given. They're all necessary. But, you know, it's just being mindful that you're worthy. You're worthy of this kind of attention. You're worthy to be your own lover. You're worthy to open up that heart space. And many ways will be given for that, and especially in a community like this. And with this center opening, oh my God, I'm so excited about it, because we're going to have things that we're going to offer. That center, it's called the Light Center, okay? That's what we're going to call it, because we're going into the light together. And that's not some silly concept for me. This is the truth. This is where we're going. We're going into this awareness. We're touching the untouchable. That's the tagline for this center, touching the untouchable. How do we do that? We do that by following a path that's been given to us so beautifully, so thoroughly. There is no stone unturned in this book. But we have to open our heart and our mind to this on a deeper and deeper level. And we have to actually go through being uncomfortable. Because it's not comfortable to look at your own state of delusion. Because we've been so busy blaming other people for it, right? And now we get to see, oh God, it's actually... And then, of course, we have to go beyond that, because it's the same. It's actually the same. So you're not going to get... A lot of people get really hung up because they release the projection off their brother, and then it goes right onto them, themselves. And that also is a trap. Because you are divine, you are innocence, and all of this stuff is meaningless. But while we believe in it, it sure doesn't feel meaningless. And so we're not going to spiritually scapegoat it, and we're not going to spiritually pink paint it. We're going to face it. We're going to do the hard work of a mystical heart, and we're going to go through it at the level that we're prepared to go through it. And who decides that? The Spirit decides that. What it is. It's, you know, he says that for most, it's a slowly evolving curriculum. Isn't that gentle? You know, when the fear is too high, you step away. You know, you don't start perhaps with the huge things, you start with the little things. Oh, I think he's a real idiot, you know, listen to what he's saying, blah, blah, blah. You know, you start with those things that are prevalent probably most of the time in the mind. Because you do that to yourself, you guys. You're not hurting anybody by holding stuff against them. I was with somebody, and I said, you know, who's been on this path for a while, I said, you write down all those grievances that you still are holding in your heart. How can you go, you know, wanting to talk to me about next steps? How can you do that if you're still holding grievances? And let's truly lay them on the altar, you know. Let's truly lay them on the altar and see where the mind still wants to hold on to those. And really look at it thoroughly, and it could be levels of mind. There's tools, you know. That's what's so beautiful about it. In my prayer, when I kept hearing you have to go deeper, and I didn't know what that meant, And then David came along with these deep, profound teachings, and I finally met somebody who was actually walking it. Then I had to go towards that. That was my means given to me. Was it easy? No, I cried for 8 years. Okay, really. Intensely for 2, but every day for 8. So, but what else do we have to do? You'd be crying anyway. It's just covered up through watching a movie or being distracted, but you're crying inside, right? All the time. So I was just crying. It was just coming because I was facing it, finally facing it. And the rewards are great. The rewards are peace of mind. And so please just start noting when you are thinking you're trusting because it's really trust for the most part is like a bargain. Okay, I'll trust Spirit, and then I'll get whatever it is that I think I need. Start trusting that peace of mind is available now. The only thing that keeps it from now is your belief in whatever is not that, and that's okay. We need to deal with that. So if there is a split devotion, know that pure devotion comes as you take these steps. Because you get so excited about it. It's like, oh my God. Nothing has changed in form, but I feel so much happiness. Nothing changes in form, I still feel so much happiness. Because that is a spiritual trap of many Course in Miracles students, is that if I just practice forgiveness, then everything in form will work out. You won't care what's happening in form. And I don't mean you won't care like, oh, I could care less. No, you'll be fully present in whatever situation you're in, and you will offer true healing because you will be truly helpful from that state of mind. It doesn't mean you become inactive. It usually means that you become more active. But you're activated in the truth so that truth seemingly radiates out, but there is no out. So really what it does is it goes out and it's like a circle and it just comes back in. Because then we're in this one circle together. So I'm never sitting in here thinking that you guys need anything. I'm just here just sharing from my heart because it all comes back into where we truly are connected in this light. And the only purpose this world holds is to forgive it. That's it, that's it, that's it. It's very, very simple to forgive it, to become passers-by. And once again, I reiterate, it doesn't mean that you become oblivious. It means that you become truly helpful. You become truly helpful. And the other thing that came through this morning is whatever you think you're upset about, you're not. And that is the mesmerization of Maya, the illusion. It looks like this situation. It is not. It's the tiny mad idea of the belief in separation being played out over and over and over. And you're the only one that can say, this is where it stops. I know what it looks like, but that's not it. I know what it seems like because I'm identified with it and I think I'm part of this dream. And if you think you're a dream figure in a dream trying to awaken, you will never, ever do so. You have to allow those two thought systems, they run side by side and they do not interconnect. So it's, I will step back and let the light in my mind lead the way. I will step back out of my patterning. Because that patterning is thick. And those are traumas from, it seems like they're traumas and patterning from our childhood or from growing up years, whatever. But actually, and yes it is, but actually it goes much further back into That's what my projection of the tiny mad idea looks like. That's how it played out for me, a nightmare. It's all a nightmare. It's stressful. Even birth, So it's like, but we have to start to see it as if it's no important than the dream we had last night. Because if you can wake up in the middle of the night out of a nightmare, and I'm going to tell this, I'm going to end this gathering with this very powerful experience I had. I was at the monastery, and I was in my room, and I was sleeping, and I woke up, and I had a horrible nightmare. And I've had those a lot throughout my life, but it was just like one of those things where it was just so intense, and like it was so real. And I was breathing hard, I was sweating, I was crying, and it was the middle of the night. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was summertime, so my windows were open, and there's little cabins next to my room, and I could hear Jason coming out of his cabin. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I thought, I wonder what Jason is doing, as I'm crying and shaking. And he came up to my room. And I'm like, oh my God, Jason, I can't believe you're here. I've had this horrible nightmare. I got to tell you about this nightmare. I'm panicking. I'm still in it, right? And he's like, no, I don't want to hear about your nightmare. I came here to share a miracle with you. I was like, at 1 o'clock he never comes to my room. It's like, what's going on? And I said, no, you don't understand. It was so real, blah, blah, blah. He goes, no, Suzanne, I'm not staying to listen to your nightmare. I'm here to share a miracle with you. And it was dark, and it was all of a sudden it got very, very mystical, because I was like, oh my God, I have a choice here. I'm either going to hang out in this nightmare, or I have to open up to this miracle that just walked into my door. And it was mystical because I could see it was a choice. And I didn't want him to leave. That was the Holy Spirit's use of attraction. I didn't want him to leave. So I said, okay. And I literally had to hook into his light and join him in that truth while he shared this beautiful thing that he had experienced. And the nightmare disappeared. And so these are the experiences as you say to the Spirit within you, please show me a better way to look at this. These are the types of experiences. He'd never come to my room in the middle of the night before. So it starts to get so amazing, because then you know you're loved, then you know you're not alone, then you know you've never left your source, you know you're completely connected, and it's the most glorious thing, and nothing in this world can hold a candle to this experience. And I feel like, the last thing I thought I would be doing is opening another center, okay? I thought I was done with that. I thought I oversaw communities, Michael and Mel, so grateful you're here with me for 8 years in that community, and they've come here from Australia to be a part of this presence and this stabilization of the mind, and to have a center and to have the grace be given through Jai and Bonnie and all of us to come together in this. This center is this healing center, the Light Center. It's for all of us, and it's going to serve in huge ways. I can feel it, because we are not messing around. We're not compromising. We're staying with what this book says, because it is our handbook out of hell. The metaphysics are clear, and the steps are clear. But all we have to do is practice those steps on a very deeper level. And not to be impatient with ourselves. This is what we're here to do. I'm not going to, it's like, yeah, you can. I could have gotten it in the first week, but I was so full of delusion that it took me a long time to just get the basics, But the basics are everything. So we will have opportunities. Like I said, I feel like this center is a blessing to everybody. It's not about us. It's about what serves the whole. It's about what serves the holiness of the mind. And we're each other's reflections now. So this is what's given. So I'm very, very thankful. Very, very thankful for the relationships. You know, we're not meant to suffer. We're not meant to be here wandering around aimlessly. And the other thing that my friend and I spoke about was her relationship with the man that she's with. Oh, they're good. They're good. Well, it ended up being about the relationship, really. There's so much compromise. It's like, we got to let go of the compromise in relationships and rise up. And not, because what happens if you're staying somewhere because somebody has some expectation of you or you're fulfilling some role, then you will never lift out. So, yeah, thank you. I am so excited about everything. Really. So let's just pause for a moment and close our eyes. And maybe we can just pull forth in our mind as a closing prayer of connection with one another, with our source, just to be thankful. You know, I kept hearing this week, thank you, Father, thank you, Father. To be grateful for all the gifts that are so abundantly bestowed before us, and sometimes we don't pick those gifts up. Sometimes we don't unwrap them, but they're always there. And that's a fact. So may we all deal with the facts. And God is a fact. And you are the truth. You are the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus did not come down here to be worshipped. Come down here, appear in our dreamscape. He did not appear to be worshipped. He appeared to say, hey, let's go. You're having a bad dream, just like Jason coming into my room. That's the symbol of Jesus. As a breadcrumb of light in the mind and the script of the dream, all of these holy symbols are there just to remind us because they were put there the moment we thought we were separated from our source. Now let's pay attention to those signs and symbols instead of the ones that we've made up. Let's pay attention to the ones that are going to take us home. I'm just going to play one song for us. We can just sit. So this will be the last gathering here. We'll have a much bigger space soon. And yeah, so I really appreciate that. You know, it just always feels good to me to join, and I had checked in to make sure the padding on the floor was okay for certain ones, but we'll have a beautiful space soon to connect up at the Light Center, and everybody will have a chair or the floor, whatever you want. And we will be getting out the information about this center soon. It's in the works. The website's being developed. And Craig's helping with all the local stuff here, so he'll be sharing that soon. And many things really. So, feels good.